In the year 1655, in a cold, mountainous region of northern Italy, during the most sacred period of Christianity, an Easter, a silent tragedy was brewing. While families gathered to celebrate the resurrection of Christ, armed men marched through the valleys of Piedmont. They did not come to celebrate, they came to punish. To exterminate a faith. This is the account of one of the most brutal episodes in European religious history. A massacre so cruel that it shocked kings, poets, and entire nations. This is the story of the Piedmontese Easter Massacre. The Piedmont region in the 17th century was made up of isolated villages, surrounded by mountains and deep valleys. There lived a simple, peasant people, deeply religious. They were known as Waldensians. This Christian group emerged in the 12th century, long before Luther or the Protestant Reformation. Their principles were considered dangerous. The Bible should be read by everyone. Faith did not depend on the luxury of the church. Salvation came from simplicity and the Word of God. Because of this, for centuries, the Waldensians were considered heretics, persecuted, expelled, massacred in silence. Even so, they survived, hiding in the Alpine valleys, keeping their faith away from the eyes of power. But in 1655, the silence would come to an end. Piedmont was under the rule of Charles Emmanuel II, Duke of Savoy, young, ambitious, and deeply attached to the Catholic Church. Pressured by religious leaders and political allies, the Duke decided to resolve the Waldensian problem. He issued a clear decree: the Waldensians should convert to Catholicism, or abandon their lands immediately. For many, abandoning their homes meant starving to death in the mountains. So they resisted. The Duke's response was cold and calculated. He authorized the sending of troops to the region, under the pretext of maintaining order, but the real plan was something else. In early April 1655, soldiers began arriving in the Waldensian villages. They smiled, they talked, they asked for food and shelter. They said they were only there to stay. The Waldensian families, faithful to Christian teachings, opened their doors. It was Easter week. No one imagined that this hospitality would be repaid with blood. The following morning, hell began. Soldiers simultaneously attacked several villages. Doors were broken down, houses were set on fire, screams echoed through the valleys, men were shot at point-blank range, women were raped, children were torn from their mothers' arms. Historical accounts described scenes of absolute horror: babies killed before their parents, mutilated bodies, entire families exterminated. Some tried to flee into the mountains, but they were pursued, hunted like animals. Easter, a symbol of life and redemption, was transformed into a ritual of death. The massacre lasted for days, and the silence of the mountains was replaced by the smell of smoke, and the sound of pain. The news spread quickly. When reports reached England, Holland, and Switzerland, the reaction was immediate. Protestant rulers were horrified. The English poet John Milton wrote a famous sonnet denouncing the massacre, calling for divine justice. Political pressure mounted. The image of the Duke of Savoy was tarnished in the eyes of Europe. Under threat of isolation and sanctions, the Duke ordered an end to the atrocities. But for thousands of Waldensians, it was already too late. The Piedmontese Easter Massacre was not just an episode of violence. It was a historical warning. It showed what happens when power uses religion as a weapon. Faith becomes a justification for hatred. Intolerance dominates. The Waldensians survived, and they exist to this day, but the valleys of Piedmont have never forgotten. May this story serve as a memory, and as a warning. Because when humanity forgets its mistakes, it is condemned to repeat them. If this story impacted you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more dark accounts from history, and comment, were you already aware of this massacre? Until the next video.